Hello, and welcome to Gentle and Clear English. Here, you will have great experiences with real stories in a clear, slow, and educational way about everyday life in America and around the world. So, enjoy, relax, and learn. America is a powerful country. It has a big economy, a strong military, and great influence around the world. But even powerful countries can have serious problems. One of these problems is debt. Today, the United States owes more money than ever before. The number is huge, over $34 trillion. That is a number with 12 zeros. It is hard to imagine. But what does this mean? Why does the U.S. owe so much money? And what could happen next? To understand the debt crisis, we need to go back in time. When a country spends more money than it receives, it must borrow. The U.S. government gets money mainly from taxes, money that people and businesses pay. But the government also spends money on many things: schools, roads, healthcare, defense, social security, and more. When spending is higher than income, the government borrows the difference. That borrowed money becomes part of the national debt. Borrowing is not always bad. In fact, it can be smart. If you borrow to build something important, like a bridge or a school, it helps the country grow. The economy improves, and people have better lives. But if a country keeps borrowing, year after year, without a plan to pay back, the debt grows and grows. This is what has happened in the U.S. every year. The U.S. has what is called a budget deficit. That means the government spends more than it takes in. The difference is added to the national debt. For example, if the government collects $4 trillion in taxes, but spends $6 trillion, it has a deficit of $2 trillion. That $2 trillion is added to the debt. Over time, these deficits become very large. Today, the U.S. national debt is over $34 trillion. That is more than the value of the entire U.S. economy in 1 year. In fact, for every American citizen, the debt is about $100,000. Of course, most Americans did not choose this debt, but they are still affected by it. So, who lends money to the U.S. government? Many different groups do. Some are inside the country, like banks, pension funds, and even regular people who buy U.S. Treasury bonds. Others are outside the country. China and Japan, for example, are two of the biggest foreign lenders to the United States. They buy U.S. bonds because they believe the U.S. will always pay its debts. These bonds are seen as safe investments, but there is a problem. As the debt grows, the government must pay more in interest. Interest is the extra money paid to lenders, a kind of fee for borrowing. Right now, the U.S. pays hundreds of billions of dollars every year just in interest. That money does not build roads or help schools. It just goes to lenders. And if interest rates go up, the payments become even larger. Imagine if a family borrowed money every month to pay for basic things and had to use most of their paycheck just to pay the interest. That family would be in trouble. The same can happen to a country. Some experts say the U.S. debt is not a big problem yet. The U.S. economy is still large and strong. People still trust the dollar. The government can still borrow at low interest rates. But others warn that this situation cannot last forever. If the debt keeps growing, and if lenders begin to worry, they may ask for higher interest, or they may stop lending altogether. This could lead to a crisis. One big danger is something called a debt ceiling crisis. The U.S. has a law that limits how much debt the government can have. Congress must vote to raise this limit. In the past, there have been political fights about this. If Congress does not raise the limit, the U.S. government could run out of money. It could miss payments. This would be very serious. It could damage the economy and hurt people all over the world. Another issue is inflation. When a country borrows too much, it sometimes tries to fix the problem by printing more money. But printing money can cause inflation. Prices rise. People can buy less with the same amount of money. Inflation hurts everyone, especially the poor. So, what can be done? There are no easy answers. One idea is to reduce government spending. But this is difficult because people expect services like health care, defense, and social programs. Another idea is to raise taxes. But higher taxes are unpopular. Some suggest doing both, spend less and tax more. But politicians often disagree. There is also the question of priorities. What should the government spend money on? Some say too much is spent on war and defense. Others say the problem is too many social programs. Some want to cut foreign aid. Others want to reduce tax cuts for the rich. It is a political debate with no simple solution. Meanwhile, the debt keeps growing. The interest payments grow too. And the risk of crisis becomes more real. Many experts say the U.S. needs a long-term plan, a serious plan to control spending and manage debt. Without such a plan, the future could be dangerous. The good news is that the U.S. still has time. The economy is still strong. People still believe in the dollar, but action is needed. Delay makes the problem harder. For English learners, this is also a chance to learn important words: debt, deficit, interest, economy, budget, taxes, crisis. These words are useful, not just in politics, but in everyday life. The story of American debt is not over. It continues every day in the halls of government, in the decisions of banks, and in the lives of regular people. It is a story of choices and consequences. But let us go even deeper. Why did the debt grow so fast in recent years? One reason is emergency spending. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. government gave money to businesses and families to help them survive. This was necessary, but it added trillions to the debt. Wars are another reason. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan cost many billions of dollars. Military operations are very expensive. Even after the wars, the U.S. continues to spend a lot on defense. Another reason is aging. As Americans get older, more people receive Social Security and Medicare. These are large programs that help retired people with money and health care, but they are costly. And as the population ages, the cost goes up. Some economists say that the government should invest in growth. They argue that if the economy grows faster than the debt, then the debt becomes smaller compared to the economy. For example, if the economy grows by 5% per year, but the debt grows by only 2%, the problem becomes smaller over time. But others warn that growth cannot be guaranteed. If the economy slows down, the debt becomes harder to manage. The debt crisis is also connected to politics. In recent years, U.S. politics has become more divided. There is often disagreement between Democrats and Republicans about how to handle the budget. Some want to cut spending, others want to raise taxes. Often, they cannot agree, and nothing changes. This creates uncertainty and makes it harder to fix the problem. Let's also look at what might happen in the future if nothing changes. One risk is a credit downgrade. Credit rating agencies give scores to countries. These scores show how safe it is to lend money to them. If the U.S. score goes down, it means more risk. Lenders may ask for higher interest, or they may invest in other countries instead. This could weaken the dollar and increase costs for the USANOTH. Our possible future is economic slowdown. If the government spends too much on interest and debt, it has less money for useful things like education, science, and health. That could make the country weaker in the long term. There is also a fear of a debt spiral. This happens when a country borrows money just to pay interest on old debt. The debt grows faster and faster. At some point, it becomes impossible to pay. This is very dangerous. Some countries, like Greece and Argentina, have faced debt spirals before. The results were painful, with job losses, inflation, and public anger. So far, the U.S. is not in a debt spiral. But if nothing is done, it could move in that direction. That is why many economists, leaders, and citizens are calling for reform. Reform means change, but change is difficult. It takes courage, planning, and leadership. It means making hard choices today to avoid pain tomorrow. In the end, the debt crisis is not just about numbers. It is about values. What kind of country does America want to be? What are its priorities? What does it want to leave for the next generation? Some citizens are taking action too. There are nonprofit groups and watchdog organizations that study the national debt and try to educate the public. They push for transparency in government spending and call for responsible budgeting. Education and awareness are key. When people understand the issues, they can vote for leaders who take the problem seriously. There is also growing discussion among young people. Many worry about the future. They ask, will we be the ones who have to pay this debt? Will there be enough money for our schools, our health care, our retirement? These are fair questions. The answers depend on the choices made today. We also have to consider the global impact. The U.S. dollar is used in trade all around the world. When America has financial problems, other countries feel it too. If the U.S. dollar weakens, global trade becomes more unstable. If interest rates rise in the U.S., it affects markets in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. The American debt crisis is not only a national issue, it is a global one. Other countries have dealt with debt in different ways. Some made deep spending cuts. Others raised taxes. A few even restructured their debt, which means they made new deals with lenders to pay less over time. These actions can work, but they also come with pain. People lose jobs. Public services are cut. It is never easy. Some people suggest bold new ideas. One idea is to change the way the U.S. budget works, to create automatic rules that control spending. Another is to create a national savings fund, similar to what some countries use to save money in good years and use it in bad years. These ideas are not simple, but they show that there are solutions if people are willing to try them. As we finish this long story, let's remember something important. Numbers tell a story, but people write it. Every number in the U.S. debt, every trillion, every billion comes from choices. Some were smart, some were not. The future will also be shaped by choices. Thank you for listening to this long and important story. You are not just learning English. You are learning how the world works. Keep learning. keep asking questions, and keep growing with gentle and clear English.